Hi, movie explainer here. The movie kicks off in the Namib Desert, where a team of geologists, Clive, Paul, and Harvey, employed by a research company, are going about their business. While working, they come across some unusual readings on their devices, piquing their curiosity. They decide to investigate these mysterious signals. As they venture further into the desert, they encounter eerie and otherworldly phenomena that send shivers down their spines. It's a massive egg-shaped rock sitting right in the heart of the desert. Paul decides to collect a sample from the enigmatic rock for further study. To their astonishment, the seemingly solid surface of the rock yields to his pickaxe with surprising ease, creating a hole. As Paul leans in for a closer look inside the hole, a bizarre creature emerges and pulls him into the depths of the rock. The scene cuts here and shifts to Vancouver, where we meet Zach, a system analyst. Zach receives a distress signal alerting him to a system failure in Antarctica. The team in Antarctica is in urgent need of assistance. And with time ticking away, Zach faces the daunting task of overriding the malfunctioning system to stabilize the situation, which he does and manages to save the entire crew. In the aftermath, Zach's boss approaches him, appreciates him a lot, and then hands him a plane ticket, revealing that there's a new assignment waiting for him at a different location, and the location is none other than the Namib Desert. Zach, a simple worker, does as he's told and hops on a plane to reach a fenced-off place owned by a mining company out in the African desert. He goes through a security check and meets Mickey and Johan. After a bit, two other guys, Carl and Titus, show up. They start looking through Zach's stuff and find a weird device, which he calls Charlie. This thing can dig down and find water up to 100 feet deep. Mickey starts looking for a journal to write down Zach's name as a visitor. However, Johan inserts the journal inside his pants and asks Mickey to pull it out, but Carl dislikes this behavior and knocks down Johan. Zach is then told about the missing geologist and is informed by Mickey that they need his assistance to find him. A team is formed, including Mickey, Zach, Titus, Kurt, and a female truck driver named Magda. They carry a lot of weapons along and inform Zach that they are taking these weapons to annihilate anyone who tries to loot them, thinking they are diamond miners. Moreover, they carry hundreds of liters of gasoline, thinking they have to travel a lot. After hours of searching, Mickey spots a truck, and they take a closer look. They sadly find two of their co-workers' bodies without flesh on them. They are amazed that the bodies decomposed that much within a day. Carl thinks the missing third guy, Harvey, might be the one who did it for Dimmons. Titus tells the others that he found something, so they all rush over. When they get there, they see footprints and follow them to find the suspected killer. A little later, Titus signals for a quick pit stop and shares something interesting with Carl. He points out that when they first began following the tracks, they were from 2 feet, but now they've changed to 4, like something switching from walking on 2 legs to all 4s, like a different kind of creature. They keep following the footprints and reach a desolate area adorned with strange and otherworldly totems. Zach can't resist the urge to touch one of these weird figures mounted on sticks, but Titus steps in, gently tapping his shoulder as a warning, and he urges the entire team to keep moving without touching anything. Titus, being the local, reveals that these signs are a warning to everyone that something horrific is waiting for them, but Carl and the other team members don't agree and decide to keep going. They continue to follow the tracks, which eventually lead them to the discovery of a skull and later a body. Kurt, checking out the remains, remembers Harvey's motorcycle accident, which left him with a noticeable limp. Kurt and Mickey wonder if the body might belong to Harvey, especially with the metal plate on one of the bones, showing past surgery. But Carl isn't so sure, insisting that Harvey is the killer and is trying to dupe them. As night falls, most of the crew is sound asleep, except for Zach. He's having trouble sleeping, weighed down by thoughts of how he ended up in this remote wilderness. To keep himself sane, he takes up sand surfing under the moon's glow. But his solo adventure is cut short by a gentle tap on the shoulder from Mickey. She mentions the noise from his sand surfing and the persistent beeping of Charlie, which kept her awake. In an unexpected turn, she nestles close to Zach, seeking warmth and a comforting hug before heading back to the truck. Before Zach can think if that hug was a sign that Mickey is interested in him, a sudden flash from the device gauge lights up the scene. Zach turns his head and finds himself face to face with a tall, eerie figure. Panic sets in, and he dashes back to the truck, waking everyone from their slumber. Zach shares what he saw, and Mickey points out the strange disappearance of the corpse. Suspicion falls on Zach, and Carl starts questioning him about the missing body. Zach vehemently denies any involvement, stating that he is here to serve as a system analyst and has nothing to do with the dead body. In a hushed voice, Titus mutters the word Esekulu, and when asked for an explanation, he reveals that Esekulu, the Sand Mother, feeds on life to keep herself going, ensuring her eternal existence. He requests that they return as soon as possible, but as usual, his request falls on deaf ears. The next morning, as Kurt peers through his scoped rifle, he spots a bizarre, shadowy bipedal creature. It's almost inhuman. He informs Carl right away. who takes the sniper from Kurt, locks onto the entity that killed their friends, and pulls the trigger. The shot hits the monster, causing it to disintegrate. The team hurriedly approaches, only to find bones remaining. No one can explain what this creature was, except for Titus. He recounts a childhood story when a shepherd boy went missing, and all they found was his clean skull. He again says that it's indeed Esakulu, and it will soon kill them all. This time everyone agrees to what he said and decides to leave the desert. And just when things couldn't seem any worse, the truck breaks down. Magda tries her best to restart it, but fails. She tries to use truck's radio, but that too only produces static noise, and they can't contact headquarters. They resort to using the emergency beacon that miraculously seems to be catching the attention of a plane. However, the plane flies by without doing anything. Magda tries to keep her teammates' morales high and reassure them that the plane has likely spotted them and will send a rescue team soon. Later, she sets up an emergency tent and distributes supplies. Meanwhile, Kurt gathers the bones of his friends so doctors can experiment on them once they reach their bases. It's decided that Kurt will serve as a guard at night, along with Titus. When it's time for Titus's turn, Kurt wakes him up and enters the sleeping bed. Titus starts his duty, but after just a short while, he hears something and becomes terrified. He tries to wake up Kurt, but he doesn't reply. When he unzips the sleeping bag, he discovers Kurt shivering and the skin on his face torn off. Titus calls for Carl and attempts to free Kurt from the grasp of the Esakulu. Carl acts swiftly, firing at the black, ant-like particles closing in. Meanwhile, Titus is brought to the safety of the truck. Carl realizes that bullets won't work, so he seizes a fuel can and douses the Esakulu in gasoline. Climbing up the truck, he grabs his lighter, ready to ignite the gas. Magda aims her gun at Carl, trying to stop him, fearing that they have a lot of fuel on the truck and that his lighter can barbecue them. Zach also intervenes, informing them that the Esakulu is retreating. They realize that it's the gasoline that caused it to run away. Magda informs everyone that Titus has lost a significant amount of blood and needs urgent medical attention. Amid the chaos, Charlie starts beeping, alerting Zach to the lurking presence of the Esakulu near their truck. Worried, Zach descends from the truck carrying a can of fuel, hoping it might act as a deterrent for the monstrous creature. But as he looks up, he's startled to find Carl aiming the sniper rifle right at him. However, when Zach turns around, he's confronted with the chilling and grotesque figure of the Esakulu. Carl doesn't waste any time and takes a precise shot. The creature disintegrates, but it's quick to attempt a resurgence. Carl is ready to take another shot. However, Zach notices that instead of pursuing them, the Esakulu is retreating. Anxious that it might return with vengeance, Zach tries to dissuade Carl from firing. A brief scuffle ensues, with Carl overpowering Zach, but Mickey intervenes, aiming her gun at Carl and shouting that their survival hinges on working together. She emphasizes that time is running out, especially with Titus in dire straits. Carl suggests that tomorrow morning they will carry Titus to the nearest outpost that's about 40 kilometers away. Magda raises her concerns, saying that carrying Titus 40 kilometers without any vehicles is impractical. Instead, she proposes leaving Titus with her in the truck while the rest venture out in search of rescue. They all agree, and the following day, Zach, Carl, and Mickey embark on an arduous trek through the desolate desert. Nothing surrounds them but endless stretches of sand, under the relentless gaze of the scorching sun. After a short while, Charlie picks up a reading in one direction, and the trio starts heading in that direction. The device scans some nearby ants, which adds to the intrigue. Before they can ponder about this, a sandstorm rages, hurtling towards them from the distance. They hold onto each other tightly as the tempest engulfs them. After it subsides, they dig themselves out of the sand, only to discover that the fuel can is nearly empty and the Charlie is broken. Later, as night falls, they find a spot to rest. Zach douses the sand with gasoline, creating a protective barrier to keep the Esakulu at bay. They lean against a lifeless tree with their backs firmly pressed together. After a short while, Carl hears something and switches on his flashlight, only to spot the Esakulu slowly inching closer. As it comes into view, they notice that it's taken on the appearance of Magda's face. The trio realizes that Esakulu has already ended Titus and Magda's lives, and all their harsh journeys were fruitless. Esakulu makes a bold move, attempting to close in on them, but the protective ring of gasoline-soaked sand proves to be an effective deterrent, and it eventually withdraws. The following day, a radio transmission jolts the trio awake. Carl identifies it as the prospector's truck, and they make their way toward it. Their discovery includes the truck and the sandstone lump that had been pried open earlier. Zach takes a closer look, delving into the formation within. He unravels the unsettling truth. The Esakulu is composed of ants. To assume a humanoid shape, it relies on human bones for sustenance. Suddenly, Johan makes an appearance and orders the team out. He accuses them of foul play, alleging that they are responsible for the deaths of their colleagues and the geologists in a diamond-driven frenzy. They attempt to clarify the situation, but Johann remains obdurate, convinced of their guilt. He takes charge at gunpoint, leading them back to camp. In a daring move, Carl ambushes Johann and breaks free. Now in control, the team detains the unconscious Johann and devises a plan to confront the mysterious creature. Their determination to put an end to the Esekulu leads them to a startling revelation. The creature is seeking to establish a new colony, likely in an old mine. They arrive at the mine on the hunt for the menacing entity. It emerges from the shadows, prompting a barrage of gunfire. A perilous moment unfolds when Carl stumbles, and just as the Esekulu threatens to claim him, Zack intervenes by firing his weapon into the air. The creature redirects its pursuit towards Zack, but he has a clever plan up his sleeve and cunningly lures it into a deep abyss. Carl commends Zack for what they thought was the creature's demise, but to their horror, the Esekulu seizes Carl's leg. Their assumption of victory was gravely premature. Mickey and Zack scramble to pull Carl to safety, but realizing the dire circumstances, Carl reaches for nitroglycerin and makes a valiant sacrifice. Without wasting a moment, Mickey and Zack locate Esekulu's brain. The ants reappear, poised to launch an attack. With quick thinking, Zack stabs the brain with a knife, vanquishing Esekulu. The creature's demise sets off a chain reaction, causing the mind to crumble. Fortunately, the duo manages to escape unharmed but is greeted by the astonishing sight of Johann's transformation into bones. Later, Zack bids a fond farewell to Mickey as she departs in a taxi, leaving the location behind. Unbeknownst to them, a fragment of Esekulu's brain survives, hidden within Mickey's crate, and this scene marks the end of the movie. You've been with us from start to finish. Awesome. Now show us some love by hitting that like button, subscribing to Movie Explainer, and letting us know your movie musings in the comments.